Good morning, everybody. My name is Sean Michael Walker, and this is the Insurance You Indemnify Me podcast. And today we have Tom Quintrell.
Yes, sir.
The famous Tom Quintrell from Kansas City, Kansas. Kind of, right?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Independence. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I knew that, by the
you
way.
You were testing
me. But what is it exactly? It's like Blue Springs? Is that what it is?
Oak Grove.
Oak Grove.
So we're Oak Grove, just east of Grain Valley, east of Blue Springs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just, what is that? Just east of Kansas City.
That's it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Are you a Chiefs fan?
100%. 100%. Listen, I'm coming in, and the train taking you from...
the Broncos just beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm going to tell you something. It's
happen?
disrespectful to even say that because at the end of the day, just the scoreboard, right? The scoreboard is what we're going to go off of. But
I'll tell you the honest truth. I'm not a big sports guy. So you can say Kansas City Chiefs are the best in the world. I'd be like, okay, cool, whatever. I'm not going to fight you on that.
Almost rocked my big Chiefs medallion.
I probably would have been like, okay, I'm not a sports fan, but that's offensive. So I actually love the Kansas City Chiefs. And Mahomes is so much fun to watch. And Taylor Swift's got a thing going on with your team right now.
Here's the thing. Everybody needs a Taylor Swift.
Everybody needs a Taylor Swift. Who's your Taylor Swift?
She is hard to even say because I'm like, I wish Taylor Swift was my Taylor Swift in the sense of her influence.
Right.
When she says, I'm going to a Chiefs game, all of a sudden everyone goes nuts and buys tickets.
You know what's amazing? I heard that this is just a big marketing ploy. The whole relationship and everything. And obviously it's not because they're now kissing and crap. And I'm surprised we're even talking about Taylor Swift this early on in the podcast. Yeah. I expected to get to it in about minute 15 or 16.
Yeah. We're in it.
But I've heard it's a big marketing ploy. Because what's that guy, Ryan Reynolds? Yeah, Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. I've heard he's like a marketing genius, which I think he is. And and in all of the early attendance pictures and photos and stuff, he's right there with her. And I wonder, like what I heard, the conspiracy theory is like he set this relationship up so that as a marketing guy, so that the NFL had more, maybe, I don't know. I doubt that's the actual case, but that was the rumor.
All I know is with her showing up, the NFL loves her.
Yeah,
the Chiefs love her.
I know.
Kelsey's jersey sales love her.
I know.
And the networks just go gaga over her. Go nuts.
It's really weird.
And then, of course, he shows up at her concert, and then she's tailoring her song after him. She's like,
I know. Yeah, there's definitely something
hard
there,
to say.
But, yeah, so I guess I'm gonna get off this podcast and be like, who's my Taylor Swift? I guess my Taylor Swift is my wife, but and she's a great Taylor Swift. So
100%. Yeah, I mean, having that influencer in your corner that when they show up, it matters, right? It's that amplifier. Yeah. And I definitely, my wife, my family, huge influencer for me, huge multiplier. I straight up though, like my daughter and I were talking, and she's like, "Are you a Taylor Swift fan?" I was like, "I don't know Taylor Swift, but I'm a fan of how she moves mountains, man. She influences. Incredible. Like, I would love for her to go, QIG, we're down, visit QIG. I'm like, that would be incredible.
The QIG Insurance Agency.
That's exactly right.
So let's tell the world who you are. Who in the heck is Tom Quintrell?
Yeah.
Why are you the bomb?
Wow.
You are, by the way. I gotta tell the world. I got a voicemail from you like maybe 6 or 7 or 8 months ago. I don't know how long ago.
Yeah.
But it was like this 2-minute long voicemail, and you were amped because you had like an incredible month or something. You're like, going Independence, amazing, and I'm so excited, and there's so much momentum, and this is crazy. I'm so excited. Thank you. And I'm like, I don't know this guy very well, but I already love him.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like this amount of energy coming through this cell phone, through this voicemail. These are the kind of people I like. And I was like, this guy is cool. So he's going to be on the podcast one day. So, so who the heck are you?
So I mean, first and foremost, I'm married, father of 4, right?
Wow.
Got a daughter and 3 boys.
Wow.
My middle son's in the agency with me. Actually just hired my daughter to be our CSR.
Cool.
Cool. Super exciting.
Yeah.
My son's a 3rd generation insurance professional.
Yeah.
So I started working for my dad. Gosh, It was December 94. right? He was a neighborhood office, Allstate agent.
You started with him in 94?
Started with him. Yeah.
Wow.
So went to...
You don't look like old enough that you could even be
Let me tell you something. I couldn't even spell insurance, let alone sell it then.
Right.
And it... I was thinking about that, and I was like, the very first policy I sold was this indemnity substandard policy.
Yeah.
And this guy sitting across from me, I mean, he was probably just a tagger, right? Just looking for some tags.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, I was so nervous folding the paper. And normally you give him 2 pieces of paper. I gave him like 20 in this portfolio. I was like, here you go, sweating.
Thank you for binding this policy with me.
Crazy. And he walked out. I was like, oh, my God, I sold a policy, but...
He canceled 4 days later, and you're like...
That was so crazy. And of course, it quickly fell off, but that's where it began. And for me... The journey has been just incredible, man. This is this December is 29 years for me.
Yeah. And, wow.
So been with a couple of different carriers, captive my whole life.
Yeah.
And really the captive journey, some folks bag on the captive agent route. That's how I got started. And it created some great runways, some great support, marketing, all kinds of stuff.
Lots of education.
Tons of education, right? Yeah. Tons of support that way. The thing that finally made the decision for me to go indie, right? Is this one guy was, you ready to go indie? Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I'm there. It was, at the end of the day, the captive channel had a ceiling.
Yeah.
Right. So you're beholden to one carrier, one outlook for them, one vision.
Yeah.
And you really don't have the choices to be able to say, look, y'all are buying me, but I'm selling this carrier.
Right.
Right. So now as an independent agent, they're still buying me. They're still buying our agency, and we have multiple options with which to serve people.
Yeah.
And our thing was never like be the cheapest or like how can we just beat where you're at?
Yeah.
Never. I despise that because you're just a price whore, right? Is what it boils down to. And that sounds crass, but you're just putting it out there like, all right, who's prettiest? Your price, my price.
Yeah.
So being independent too gives us the opportunity to go, here's the strength of these different carriers. Here's their claim service. Here's what separates these folks. So part of my journey, going from that captive to becoming independent, it has just bolstered and man, it's energized me because we're back to selling, back to really grinding, and we're getting into cases.
And that's in a hard market too. I can't wait to see how excited you get when things get soft. And it's like, I can sell 800 policies a month, and it's like, yep, no, there's nothing keeping you from selling 800 policies a month.
Oh, I can't wait.
And you'll be like, done.
And right there, Sean, I think that's something that is such a trap for a lot of independents. Is when I was getting into this, I reached out to a number of folks that were captive, independent, and I said, what's the downside?
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to everything.
Absolutely.
Tell me the downside. And this one gal, she's in California, she said, the downside is you become complacent.
That is true.
And I was like, I think I know what you mean, and she's articulated exactly that. Like when you're writing all kinds of stuff, you lose your hunger, you lose your drive. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really, we try to fight against. I don't ever want to be complacent.
Yeah.
We're hungry, like, as Duran says, hungry like the wolf, right?
Yep.
We are grinding, and we've got this thermometer on our wall that we're tracking our premium. We send emails. We've got these clapper hands that we do, and we're selling. I mean, just keeping it real, because every sale's vital.
Yeah.
And just definitely not want to take that for granted. So
yeah, but it is true. Like you can have so much success as an independent insurance agent, especially in a different soft market, that a lot of agents hit $5 million in written premium or hit $10 million in written premium, and they go, yeah, this is good. I mean, I'm making a ton of money. I'm good. I'm totally good. And the question is, but why not be a $20 million agency, or why not be a $40 million agency? Like, it's all possible.
Yes.
So, think like, yesterday this came up a lot, but think like an agency owner, or not an agency producer, right? Think past the next sale and stop being complacent that you're selling all day long, and start thinking, how do I get 80 people selling for me all day long, and start
That's exactly right.
Ditching the idea of complacency.
Become an enterprise, right?
That's right.
Another thing that this gal said to me, and I heard it from multiple voices, is don't be the jack of all trades.
That is 100% true.
And I think that is so spot on.
And that's danger. There's a ton of danger in people trying
when
to do
you're
that.
Captive, they say you can do this, you cannot do this, right? And so all you know is you're just here. And then you're like, I'm going independent because I can do all these things. And the juice is not worth the squeeze.
That's right.
You know, the Chinese proverb says you chase two rabbits, they both escape. Yeah. And in the independent world, you really got to protect your focus. Yeah. And you said it yesterday, niches equals riches, right? So the more that you focus and target, and again, not to say that you don't specialize in different areas or add things
or hire people to specialize in
You just can't shotgun everything.
Yeah. I think it's Robert Klinger up in like New York, but he hires a whole bunch of different ethnicity groups so that each ethnicity group can go specialize to a specific ethnicity group. Yes. And he's growing a humongous insurance agency because he's niches to riches. But each group that he builds out is like, go get that ethnic group. Go get that ethnic group. Go get that ethnic group. I think. Don't get upset at me, Robert, if I'm getting this wrong. But, spread out and go get it all. Yeah. And that's complacency but also doing it meticulously. Like I do find new independent insurance agency owners, it's a one-man shop, it's a two-man shop, and they're trying to do what I just described, and they just go too wide. And it gets pretty bad pretty quick.
Well, that can be a dumpster fire real quick.
It is, yeah. It turns into a dumpster fire
pretty
quick.
And God bless these cats that want to come in and just say, hey, I'm the captive company's not going to tell me how to run my agency, because a lot of them say you have to have staff, you have to have these, right? Sure. So then they're working out of their house or they're, no staff. And like you said, I got $1 million, $1.5 million in premium. Man, I'm good. Yeah. Really, no, you're not, right? In the scheme of things, and again, not judging someone's character, but you're capping your own potential, your own possibility. Right. And why? Right. Bring others in and blow that thing up.
That's right. Yeah. If that's what you want to do. I mean, some people don't want to, and that's fine. But to your point, being an independent insurance agency owner gives you the potential to do whatever you can possibly imagine and make it as big as you can possibly imagine.
And here's the other thing too, is this is just I didn't even mean to say this, but I'm gonna throw this out here. Shameless plug for PGI, right?
Okay.
Here's the reality in going indie. When I was talking to these different agency owners, is you gotta find the right partner.
Yeah, you do.
Because there are a lot of voices screaming out there and coming at you for join me, do this, do this. Yeah. And when I was a captive agent, we were getting hit up by a bunch of like, if I said their name, you'd know, like, oh yeah, I've been recruited by them tons. Yeah. But just because they're the loudest voice doesn't mean they're the right partner.
That's true.
And you have to do your due diligence, understand the contracts, understand the opportunity. Yep. I had this one partnership in Kansas that I was talking to, and she was former captive, twice over, and then they formed their own independent, and they'd been with an aggregator before, didn't like the contract, got out of it, and did their own thing after doing all this due diligence, right? Yeah. So she was telling me, she said, we're going to provide you this service and this and this, and it sounded like, man, this is legit. Yeah. But then when it came to like carriers and knowledge and representation, support, it's like, man, this, that it was almost like fool's gold, right? It looked solid, but if you go that route, again, you're almost captive in their bubble. Yeah. PGI doesn't have that, and man, I'm so glad I chose PGI.
Well, thank you. That was not expected.
No, it's legit.
I didn't ask you to come on for that, but PGI. It's interesting because I come from the carrier side. I've been in insurance for I think 22 years now. I was on agency side during college, jumped to the carrier side for like 10 years. But when I was on the carrier side, I called on a lot of aggregators, and aggregators come in all different sizes, groups and clusters and sizes, and some do things neat and some do things not so neat, and some do things differently. They just do them all differently. Yeah. And I'll just say, when I met Premier, I was on the carrier side, and I was like, wow, this really feels like something different. Now, I've been here for maybe 11 or 12 years, so I hope that it still feels different and is still a uniquely different aggregator, but or different deliverable, or the things that we're doing are still cutting edge and still unique. And I hope that the carriers come here and that agencies come here and visitors come here and go, wow, something different's going on here. But back then when I joined Premier, or when I was beginning to court Premier, it was like, this is wildly different than any other aggregator that I've interacted with. Yeah. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. That seems wild.
most aggregators take a cookie cutter approach because they think they understand the captive world or what folks want. And so there's all this flash and panache and all this stuff. And it's really not about that. The thing that separates, and again, I shameless plug for PGI, but the relationships here, the people matter. And it's really what you want out of it, right? Yeah. So PGI creates this framework that you can come in and say, this is what I want to do. Here's the support I'm looking for. And they go, yes, we have it.
We can help you.
To what degree would you like it?
Exactly.
And then, by the way, we're going to give you more than you asked for. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. So it's not a one size fits all. And, if you want to be an $80 million agency or a $2 million agency,
it all works. Yeah. Well, thank you. Was your dad pissed when you said, Dad, I'm not going to do Allstate anymore? He's like, what? What?
Interesting thing there. So
was he like, great, I always wanted to do that myself? What was the story there?
3 years with him as a producer, and then the agency manager came to me and was like,
do your own.
Yeah, hey, we'd love for you to do your own. Yeah. And I was so stoked about it. Yeah. Now, I got to be honest, I'll tell you a little funny story about myself. So they have these tests you have to take, right? Yeah. And so...
you were manipulating your answers?
No, listen, the manager sat down, and she said, hey, can you pass this test? And I go, oh, sure, yeah. And so it was asking me things like, how much money would you like to make a year? Okay. And I was taking it, and I was like, oh, man.
What's the right answer?
Man, $50,000 a year would be so awesome. And they're like, how many people do you know? I was like, I know 100 people, at least 150. And so that, when you walk into a room, all these questions. And so I said, man, I was so confident. And it came back and it was like, there's high, medium, low, and like, do not even talk to this person. Yeah. And I was below that, right?
They're like, no.
They were like, get away from this dude.
Yeah.
And she was bewildered. She's like, what happened? So HR contacts all this, and they're like, well, this is how he answered the questions.
Yeah.
So was able to retake it and said, what you need to do is answer what you would really, how you see yourself, what you would like. Because I was like, my dad was paying me $7 an hour against a draw of $1,400.
Exactly.
And some of that money was going towards rent, right? So I was I wasn't making money.
Right.
And when it came to commissions, my dad would be like, a little fuzzy math, and here's this, and carry rent. Yeah. So I was like, well, this would be awesome.
Yeah.
But
$50,000 would be killer.
Went back, passed it with a high, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Opened up my own agency. Yeah. And my dad loved that for me. But then first year I got agent of the year and rookie of the year. And he was like, oh, that's my boy. That's, the young lion, all this stuff he used to say. And then second year I got agent of the year again. Oh, he was pissed.
He was like, okay, stop it.
He genuinely was like, no, that's me. And so we had a little rub there. But
is that right?
Left agency after 3 years, went into leadership with Allstate, and I had 18 years in total with him. Was financial rep, field sales leader multiple times, agency, all this stuff. It was really a great experience, right? So went from there to. My last role at Allstate was a field sales leader, and so I was over kind of this, states area, and then I went from there to farmers to be a district manager, and
I didn't know that.
Really similar in the sense of, recruiting agents, training agents, all that, but I had like an equity stake, right? So that was pretty cool. Sure. I found out I really didn't love that as much, right?
I meet these district managers who go, "This wasn't that cool. Yeah. This wasn't the coolest decision." Some love it. And they're like, this is the greatest position ever, and some just don't.
The thing that got me about it is that I didn't mind doing the recruiting, didn't mind talking to agents. I'm an agent at heart, right? So I'd go meet with these agents at night, and I'm sitting down with this one particular agent, and I said, let's make some phone calls together. I go, this is bread and butter. We can win here. And he pulls out this list, and he starts scratching off all these names. And I said, what are you doing? And he goes, we're not going to call these people. And I said, well, who are we going to call? He goes, well, there's a couple down here. I said, okay, let me see the list. And so I called the first person he scratched out. Yeah. and I said, hey, Sean, this is Tom at so-and-so's office here with Farmers. How are you doing? Yeah. Oh, great. Right. Got into it, ended up booking him a life insurance appointment, cross-selling him the home. And he goes, man, I haven't been able to do that. I talked to that guy about that. It didn't work. I go, well, let's do the next one. Yeah. We called all those ones that were crossed out, booked up his appointments. Yeah. And then I said, all right, we're coming back. Let's do it, next week, same time. Yeah. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I don't. Right, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm investing.
Like, why? We just had a ton of success together.
Oh, it was crazy. I'm like, I'm more invested in this and your success than you are.
I've heard this. Like, I've heard district managers say this, where they're like, I feel like I'm more invested than the actual agent is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna be the agent,
Yeah.
or do the agent's job, why don't I become an agent?
Right.
So after 3 years,
Right.
my son and I opened up a scratch
Yeah.
farmers agency in the office we're in now, and right during COVID. And so COVID hits, and nobody wants to talk to anybody,
Right.
and we opened up, and we're just like with full of gusto, we're gonna do this, and we loved it, and thought we were wildly successful, right? So we were hitting their metrics, blew out the life, maxed the life bonuses, hit the top tier performers. We were Topper Club, every year through straight life insurance, and so it was really an awesome experience.
Yeah.
We just kind of saw the handwriting on the wall with how Farmers just was changing with like they acquired MetLife, and that was great, and until it wasn't, right? And then underwriting changes based on that, and so it was like, all right, well, do we want to stay and hunker down and go, man, we're going to really invest in this thing,
Right.
or do we take a look at the other side? And here's the thing: as a captive guy, we always said the grass isn't greener.
Yeah.
It's not, right? Because grass is green where you water it.
That's right.
And I believe that, but I reached out to a friend that was captive that went indie, and this gal in Kansas, and I said, "Is the grass greener?" And she paused and she said, "Wildly greener."
Yeah, it is.
Like phenomenally greener. And I went, okay, let's start exploring, let's start looking, and no regrets, right? So I had 2 captive experiences that helped bring me to the place we were at to launch going indie, and man, I love it. We started a scratch agency here in February, and we're just blowing the doors off, just loving it, right? Again, according to me. Now there's other agents out there that are probably writing $1 million a month, and we're nothing, but we're rocking and rolling.
But it's working.
It is.
And you also started an incredibly complicated time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I just can't wait till things soften up a little bit and you go, oh, wow, 5th gear as an independent insurance agent is very different than 5th gear as a captive agent, because one's a Ford and one's a Ferrari, and, you're just going, this is an incredible machine.
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking about as preparing for this that separates us, Sean, from like a lot of other folks, whether it be captive or the indie agents, is we see a lot of agents are transactional.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So it's the old, waiter waitress mentality, right? So this, would you like a soda with that? Okay, here's the ticket. It comes back. Yeah. Here's your thing. And for us, we're insanely curious about our customers. So we get referrals, we get folks, oh, so-and-so said to go, great.
Yeah.
I want to learn about you.
Yeah.
I want to find out what's important to you about your insurance, or how did you arrive at these limits, or, all these things. And it sounds simple enough, but when you get customers talking about them and about then their emotion behind their insurance, or how they feel about it, they've never had that conversation.
Right.
And so then we come back and go, you're at 50,100 or state minimums or whatever, or even 250,500. How'd you arrive at that? I have no clue. That's just what my dad told me to do.
Yeah.
That's what the other agent said. And I go, great, okay. We're going to, we put together a customized product comparison, right? So here's what you have, here's what we're recommending. Yeah. Spells it out. Right. We're not trying to say cheaper, higher. It just is.
Yeah.
And folks appreciate that so much, because we're being honest and upfront. Yeah. And they go, I recommend this because. Yeah. And then here's how we our process and how we work. Right. And man, our close ratio is, we're like at 77, 80% close rate.
Right now?
It's stupid.
That's incredible.
Like, it's incredible.
That's incredible.
So, and here's the thing. So like, yes. And when we do carrier selection, right? So that's another thing. So, you can write with anyone and everyone. Well, let me tell you something. If you're going with Podunk Mutual, or you're with some company that no one's ever heard of, or doesn't have a track record, be careful. Right. Be careful, because that could be fool's gold, right? Everything that glitters isn't gold there. So we go with carriers that are A-rated, solid claim service, solid reviews, that type of thing. Yeah. So when we're talking with our clients, they can look and go, oh yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down, versus the who's this? Yeah. Well, no, trust me, they're good folks. Yeah. When really all it is we're showing them a cheap rate.
Right. Is your son just as gregarious as you are?
That dude is incredible.
Is he?
Yeah, I couldn't be more proud of him.
Yeah. Whew. Wow. How old is he? Young? How old is
he? You get me. Like he's 24, and he got into insurance, and I was a district manager and with farmers, and I said, I didn't put him with any of my folks, at first. I said, I want you to go learn with some other people, and didn't want him near me because I want you to go experience how's
without
it really
my
work.
Influence.
Yeah. Instead, he went and worked at this other agent that was in my district, and they beat him up. Right? I mean, he was a large agent, but they're really terrible trainers, and so he had to cut his teeth hard. And he had these ladies around him that would henpeck him all the time.
I bet.
And so he learned. Well, then from there, brought him into the agency, and I said, this is how we do it. Yeah. This is how it really goes. He had the knowledge of systems and how to do it right and whatnot, but here's how to communicate it. And he is much better than I am. And I sit back and listen to him explain things like, oh, dude, I'm so proud.
You're like, oh, that's good.
He's incredible. And then he tells people all the time, he's like, oh man, my pops, he's taught me, he's hooked me up. And I'm like, man, I learned from this cat. So folks that are thinking about, should I get my kid in the business or whatnot? First of all, you got to have a solid relationship. And trust him, whatever. But, one of the best moves I've ever made was bringing him in, because we are not, it's not father-son in the agency. I mean, it is and it isn't, but like we have so much fun.
It's peer-to-peer.
Oh, we get
Who's
up,
buying
we're
lunch today? Just because I'm your dad doesn't mean I'm paying.
Laughing, we're joking. And then it's like when we get serious on stuff, we have each other's backs with customers. It's awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool.
He's doing a great job. And,
that's really cool.
Eventually, my vision for him is, like, when I got in, my dad said, I'm going to sell you this business in 10 years. Yeah. To be honest with you, I didn't know what next week was going to look like at that time, right? So 10 years.
Sure.
God. Yeah. And I told my son, I said, here's how I see this going for you if you decide. Yeah. I'm like, we're going to build this thing up, have just this crazy enterprise, and you're going to run it, right? I said, I'll always be a part of it, because why would you get out of this business? Right. But I'm gonna have you oversee this thing. Yeah. And if you want to buy it down the road, you can. But if not, we're going to just work on it and make money, and and he loves it.
That's one thing I've told many people this over the course of my 22-year career. But it's really interesting to see the transition between dad and son. Some agencies get it really right, and some agencies get it really, really, really wrong. I say dad and son, dad and daughter, dad and whatever, but dad and next generation, or mom and next generation. Some get it really, really right. Some get it really, really wrong. So I would love to introduce you to some people who have gotten it really, really right. And just say, hey, start a relationship with these people over the course of the next 10 years.
So
They're
cool.
really cool people all across the United States. Yeah. Like right now, off the top of my head, I think about the Merrill agency down in Florida, like father, son, there's been this transition, but it's one of the best transitions I've ever seen occur. That's cool. And so sometimes you see the transition just horribly fall apart and go really, really bad. Yeah. And sometimes you see it just go beautifully, and you go, if I were in your shoes, I'd be going, can you point me in the right direction where these generational transitions occur so that I can start figuring out how to make this happen 10 years from now or 20 years from now or whenever you want to make it happen. Yeah. But that way you can start going, what works and what doesn't work.
So I've seen the opposite of that, like with my dad and my sister. So my sister came after me. And so she
did it go well?
Worked for my dad. Oh man,
not well.
Horribly.
Yeah. So that's my point. Is like it'd be good to introduce you to people where it's like, here's where it went well. Yeah. Go form a relationship with these people and see how you can make it go perfect.
That's awesome.
And we're talking huge agencies. I mean, we're talking huge agencies, humongous staff. So you would think the transition would be a painful, complicated transition. It'd be really good for you to meet those.
Well, and here's the benefit of what you're talking about too, is being in the PGI family. Yeah. It's not like I'm just looking up some random mega independent agency or whatever size they'd be and go, hey, I'm a total stranger. At least
Can you talk to me about your transition?
We have PGI in common, right? And have a warm handshake. So.
Yeah. So let's segue to something funny, if you don't mind. Funniest story in insurance. So you're going to go stand in front of a senior class in a high school, and you're going to convince all these kids that insurance is fun and cool and awesome. And you're going to tell them a funny story. Like, guys, check this out. Insurance is so cool and so funny. This is the funny crap that happens on a regular basis. What's the funniest story that's happened to you in insurance where you're like, there was this claim that unfolded horribly and hilariously, or this customer was just, nuts, and this is what happened, but that's funny.
Well, it's a crazy story, right? So like
usually it's the crazy stories that are like, that's not funny,
man.
but it's so crazy, we'll accept it.
I'll tell you one is a staffing story.
Okay.
Right. So I'm a brand new agent, have my own agency. My office is being built out. So I'm still in my dad's agency at the time while the transition.
Yeah.
And so I have my start date. I hire a staff. And then my dad had a staff. And right after I hire this staff, which was referred to me by this pastor friend of mine that was a customer.
Love it already.
Yeah.
Has all the earmarks of falling apart.
My grandma passes away, right?
Okay.
My grandma dies. And so my dad's mom, so we drive out to California and we're out there about a week and a half, 2 weeks, taking care of the affairs. Yeah. And before I left, I said, okay, hey, Sandra, listen, this is what I need you to do. Here's this training module. Here's the program. Lynn's here to help if need be. Piece of cake. Just follow this and then, I'll be back. And so we left, came back, and, there was Sandra sitting there, and here's, Lynn, and Lynn takes me outside. She goes, hey, Tom, can I? And I go, hey, Lynn. She goes, listen. And Lynn was an older gal, and she'd been with my dad for years. And she says, I would never want to say anything negative about him.
Right.
And she goes, but while you were gone, Sandra just sat at the desk and had her feet up on the desk reading a book the whole time. And I go, no, like Lynn. And she goes, no, do with it what you want, but
that's what happened.
And I go, okay. So I come in and I said, hey, Sandra, how was things while I was gone? Oh, it was perfect. It was fine. Everything was good. And I said,
had no clients, so I did nothing, and it was wonderful.
I go, just going to throw it out there. Lynn says that you sat at the desk with your feet up on the desk and reading a book the whole time. And she goes, yeah, no, I did. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. I'm like, what? I go, so you didn't get in the training? She goes, oh, no, I just read this book. And I said, Sandra, today's your last day.
Yeah, right.
Right? And so she stands up, she collects her purse, and goes to the front door, and she said, thanks for ruining my life, and slams our door. And it was this glass door, and the glass starts waving. I thought it was going to shatter out. It didn't. Dang it. So then...
That would have been better. You should have said it did.
Just
do the salesy thing, over-exaggerate a little bit.
Right.
It shattered.
Well, 45 minutes later, her husband calls me. And they're from the Air Force.
Good.
They're in the Air Force, and he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Big John.
Yeah.
And John calls me up, and he says, Mr. Quintrell, I heard you disrespected my wife. And I said, excuse me, sir. And he goes, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna straighten this out with you. And I said, straighten out. He goes, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh boy.
And I said, oh. So I go, okay, hold please. And I called the pastor.
Right.
And Pastor Reverend Hatcher. And this dude, he's a small, wiry fella, just spirited dude.
Yeah.
And he beat feet down in my agency before them.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and they come walking in, and they're ready to storm the gates. And he looks at them and he says, "You two, sit down." And they immediately, like, eyes open.
Oh crap, Pastor's here.
Says,
I can't kill anybody.
Mr. Quintrell says you disrespected him. Mr. Quintrell says that you cheated and you stole from him while he was out with his grandma passing.
Yeah.
Is that true? And he just and she, and John, shame on you. And he starts yelling, and I mean, I was sitting back like, whoa,
what is going on?
And I mean, and he got into them and just stripped them down right there. And dude's crying, and he said, he goes, I am so sorry. He goes, I was out of my character. Forgive me. He goes, I was wrong, And she was like, Mr. Quintrell, I am so sorry for how I behaved. And he goes, no, you get on out here, right? And sent them up. And he goes, that's unacceptable. No one's going to disrespect my friend, Mr. Quintrell, And I was like, whoa, dude, what just happened? But
that's wild.
It was crazy.
That's really wild.
He set the record straight, and he was just this little wiry dude. You wouldn't think anything. This dude, John, he was probably 6'5". He was a 3-piece, right? And you're like, wow, something's about to come undone. And he just, So that happened.
That sounds like a good story. That's a good story.
Dude, the other story that was crazy is...
You got to say shattered the glass next time, though. Next time you tell a story,
I got to have it be
the glass
evangelistic,
shattered.
Right, I got it, yeah. And
I'd just say that cracked, like it was thermo whatever, and it just cracked.
Spiderweb.
Yeah. That way you don't have to feel so bad about the over-exaggeration.
Michael Brolick, I'll never forget his name. I mean, again, I'm new in insurance, so his wife Amy calls up and says, "Hey, I'd like a quote, on insurance, whatever." Okay, hey, Amy, any tickets, any access, and this is like instant MVRs, right? This is old school, like we're taking your word on
This is 1997.
Right. And we're like,
all the young kids are like, what is he talking about? You couldn't get it immediately?
Oh, buddy, the old AS400s. And So I run the quote through, and she says, great, we're going to come down. And so then I push, all right, we're going to do the MVR. It comes back with a ticket.
Yeah. Just one?
Just a ticket.
Okay.
So I call her back, and I said, the price increased. And she goes, I'm going to have my husband call you. Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. Michael, he calls me up and he goes, Tom, this is Michael Brolick. And he's like, he goes, I'm going to get that quote. You owe me that quote. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's
you
like,
owe me that quote?
Yeah, he goes, you quoted me this. You're going to honor that quote. And he's yelling in the phone. And I took the phone away, and I started laughing. I mean, it just made me laugh. I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm coming down there. I'm going to get that quote, Tom. And he's just breathing and exasperating. And I go, Mike, I think you need to take a breath or something, my guy. I go, your wife lied to us. She had a ticket and said she didn't. I go, so the price changed. Yeah. It's a quote. Deal. It's not the policy. And he goes, I'm coming down. I go, click. And I told those guys in the office, I was like, so this dude Michael might be coming down, right?
We might all get beat up today.
Now, the third story that just came to my mind. Never came.
Okay.
Never came. Yeah. Okay. But it was funny because we always would bring that up. Like, I'm going to get that quote. Yeah.
I'm going to get that quote. I've never heard that phrase.
I get this call.
I'm going to get that quote.
And from this agent, I'll just say Agent Smith, right? And dude calls me up. He says, is this Tom Quintrell?
Yeah.
At Allstate? Yeah.
You stole my policy.
Well, he goes, this is Agent Smith with the FBI.
Oh, okay.
And I said,
now that's interesting.
No, it's not. And I hung up the phone.
Yeah.
I go, no. And he calls back and he goes, hey, this is Agent Smith with the FBI.
Yeah.
And I need to talk to you about a client of yours. And I said, okay, so how do I know you're the FBI? Just because, and I go, I could call you and say, I'm with the FBI. Right. And I go, I'm not buying it. Click, hung up. and this dude, he says, are you located at such and such? And I go, yeah. And he goes, see you in a minute.
Great.
Comes down, dude walks in.
Shows the badge.
Flashes the badge.
Yeah.
This is, Agent Smith with the FBI. And I was like,
welcome to my office.
I'm like, not bad, And he was following up because there was a guy I had insured that at the time nobody knew, but he was a serial killer.
Oh, really?
And it was awful. He had done horrific things, but they were investigating because he had these multiple accidents was it intentional, all this different stuff.
Oh, I thought you were saying maybe multiple aliases or something.
Oh, boy. He was asking me about that as well. Yeah. But then, long story short, it came out at what he had done.
And bad stuff.
Oh, it was bad. It was horrible. And I had him insured.
Wow.
And he was a bad dude.
Yeah.
Bad man. But yeah, I was like, you can't call up and say you're with the FBI.
Yeah, right.
And I go, how about I call you back and say I'm with the FBI? Yeah. And he goes, well, you can call this number and I go, what? You'll answer FBI? And I go, that was kind of funny.
It's a good point though. That's interesting. Your stories remind me of some of my stories. Some I really can't even figure out how to tell on a recording where I'm just like, I don't even know how I could tell this story. I have some recorded phone calls that I still pull up on my computer and I laugh my head off because I'm like, did this agent just say that thing to me? Or did this agent just accuse that underwriter of that thing where I'm just like, I can't I can't even figure out why that would come out of the mouth of a human being. They're just good stories, but I don't even know if I can share them on this thing, where I'm just like, man, that's crazy.
Craziness.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've had stories like that though, like law enforcement calling me up and saying, hey, in this role, like law enforcement calling up and saying, who is this agent? And we're saying, well, we know him as this person. And, oh, he's actually not that person. That person's stolen that person's identity or whatever, where you're like, oh, that's interesting, So you kind of help like a Department of Insurance put two and two together or whatever.
Right.
Cool. Hardest part about going independent, where you're like, yeah, this I didn't expect.
So some of the things that get you when you go independent is, like, I knew that when you're on the captive side, you have your own website, you have your own marketing, you have, your names out there. They dictate the phone. They do a lot of those things, right? So when you go independent, it's all on you. All on you. And you're like, look, Q, website's easy. Right? Or doing your phone, or all these different little nuances that you have to do. And then the thing is you're drinking from a fire hose with instruction, right? So it's watch these videos on how to do easy links. And then here's, the PGI stuff you need to do. And then here's this carrier training. And so everyone comes to you one time and says, get on this webinar. We want to teach you. And you really have to step back and go, okay, what are my priorities? Right. What are my have tos? What are my want tos? Right. And so we had to do that and just prioritize, because at first you're just like, I just need to write policies. I got to make some money, got to generate revenue. But you do have to invest in yourself and invest in the future of your agency by doing some of those training things, right? So those are all good, but the carrier dynamics, right? Understanding the underwriters, what their appetites, and what's tough too is you get someone that you're like, all right, I'm targeting contractors, or I'm targeting salons or whatever, and you're like, well, who likes them? Yeah, and there is no one stop. There's like this Ask Kodiak you can go out to, and of course, Travelers loves everything on Ask Kodiak. Right. I swear it's probably sponsored.
Yeah, we'll take it all.
That's exactly right. But
we love every SIC code.
100%. Yeah. And yet, okay, not so much. But those are some things that create a challenge that before you didn't have, because on the captive side, you had just one set of underwriting guidelines. Box. That's it. It either works or it doesn't. Yeah. Here you have so many variations, and yet that's an awesome thing as well, a strength. Yeah. At first, it's a little challenging.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. I always say it's almost like learning the dance, like it's almost like this person's doing that, so I have to do this. Or somebody came at me with a contractor, so I know to move this way. Right. Or a beauty salon, I know to move that way. Yep. And you don't know that stuff early on, so you don't know the steps. You don't know the dance moves. And so somebody comes at you with something, and because it just takes time to figure that out. Yeah. And I think a lot of people go, well, why can't you just like the Matrix, just plug it into my head and make me a perfect dancer overnight so that I can just do that? But it's like, well, I can't teach you. Somebody's going to come at you with something, and you're going to go, oh, the dance move is naturally this. Yep. Or the wrestling move is that. The next move is this. Yep. The next chess move is that, to counter the thing. Not necessarily to counter, but to address the thing that is coming
to have the right flow. Yeah.
Right. And that takes time.
When you're captive, the thing is so on the commercial side specifically, a lot of times you don't mess with things because you can't do it. Right.
So it comes at you and just go, nope.
That's right. It's like, oh, we'll do these simple things. We'll do this little, but when it comes to contractors specifically, or whatever it may be on the captive side, they're like, not today. Yeah. But then you have these folks coming at you that, well, I've got this particular business, and the temptation too, as an indie agent, is to go, we can do it all.
I'll waste my time for 2 months to figure it out.
And that's the thing, right? So
that's the danger.
Learning to say no and learning to go, not yet. Maybe no is not today, but
that's right. Yeah. Let me get your information. I'll put it in a file, and maybe we'll talk at your renewal, but not yet.
Because that'll sink your ship and get you discouraged right out of the gate if you're looking going, oh man, this independent thing sucks because I thought I could write everything, but now I'm spending all this time. It's like, well, dude, you're just investing in the wrong stock. Right. All right. Don't invest in that stock yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about technology? Are you a technology guy? It sounds like your son's the technology person and you're riding his wave. What about technology? Is the agency a tech?
He's the social media guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How about, let's talk technology. So are you guys good at technology? Yeah. What do you got plugged in?
So we like technology, but I think we're on the tip of the spear, we're just scratching the surface, I should say, of technology, because, we use we're into easy links. And that's great and all that stuff. You do forms. Sure. And I just learned about Eva the bot, right? So you can do that, which is cool. Right. We use like JotForm, which we had when we were captive. JotForm is incredible. Folks don't use JotForm. Right. Dude, get on board. Canopy Connect is another one that when we were captive, folks would be like, oh, use this. I was like, right. But now when we're doing this, well, that's another thing. When you're with the captive agency, all you need is a name, a date of birth, and an address, and their system pulls everything. So when you go indie, you need their deck pages, their driver's licenses. Sure. You need all that stuff. Sure. So getting the tech to help you get that. Again, Canopy Connect has really helped us with that. So
that's interesting that you say that, because the independent carriers could provide it. It's just an expense, right? Farmers or Allstate, whoever provided that to you, they're paying probably LexisNexis to bring back all that information based off of the name and the address and whatever you said. Maybe just name and address, date of birth. The independent carriers could do that as well, but I would bet the independent carriers are thinking this: I'm Safeco. I could do that for you, but then I'm going to be the carrier that pays the expense for you to take all that data and take it over to Travelers and have them do it. And we're not all going to pay the expense. So which independent carrier is going to pay the expense to do it? So it makes sense that a captive carrier does it, because they're going, well, we're going to get this business no matter what. They're going to sell it with farmers or they're not. Right. If Safeco pays the expense to bring back all that information, and it would come with an actual expense because LexisNexis would charge them. Then they go, well, I'm just facilitating them starting with me, but not necessarily finishing with me. Right. And then I'm paying the expense for them to finish it somewhere else. It makes and that's got to be why they don't do it on the independent side. It's got to be. And the thing is, though, it's empowering when you figure that out and go, okay, if I secure their data and then I have it, now I can pivot and do different carriers, multiple things, right? So other tech that we, I don't even know if this falls under the tech thing, but my son is huge with Facebook, right? I would say yes.
And the thing with Facebook, like I'm not Facebook, I don't even have a Facebook, right? So about 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago, I had one. I killed it, right? Done. I can't even reopen that old one. It's done. So he does it though, and he's figured out the algorithm with this thing. It's incredible. So, for instance, we live in Kansas City, at home of the Chiefs, all this stuff. So my son, he'll go out there, and Hunter, he'll say like, Patrick Mahomes needs to hang it up. He sucks. He's a terrible quarterback. And I mean, he gets people
blown up,
going nuts on him.
400 comments.
And he doesn't even answer. They start commenting on each other and all stuff. And so what happens is it starts getting this traction. And then he does this thing with Snapchat, which there's filters in there apparently. Like he does this thing where a dude is bald and has this big mustache. And he talks insurance talk through it. Really? And then he posts it on Facebook. And people respond to that like crazy. It's this third-party expert, and he's so, and he gets disrespectful on that thing sometimes. He's like, where one time he's interviewing someone, and he plays these different people with the filters, and he's like, so you're telling me that you can't afford, life insurance, or let's say, and the guy's over there acting like he's smoking, or this other one, is a hillbilly, or and people eat that stuff up, so they're sharing it with their friends, all this. And then he comes along and he starts to share like legit content and an agent. Rate increases or our agency. And we get a ton of traffic off of that. So that's a huge powerful tool. We haven't, we haven't gotten into Instagram or any of that jazz. We don't mess with that. But that's probably the extent of our tech. We have a desire to have a little bit more AI or some automation to help us even within easy links, right? Just sending stuff out and doing things. When you come from the captive, like the old school, and this isn't all captive stuff, but how I learned the business through my dad and with these other senior agents, it was old school way of doing it. And so I'm definitely learning this, like, hey, there's a faster, quicker, leaner way to do this.
Let me ask you, what don't you think insurance carriers understand? So insurance carrier, they're having cooler talk at their big corporate tower, wherever that corporate tower is. And they're all like, man, those insurance agents, what do you think they don't understand about us?
The thing that is difficult, I think, with carriers is whether it be underwriters, claims people, if they haven't ever, or the corporate side, if they've not ever held the role of the agent, and again, I not just in the transactional, just typical sales guy thing or saleswoman or whatever. I think it's if they've never done it and made a living off of commission-based sales and the relationship sale, then it's very difficult for them to empathize or to truly understand what goes into this situation. And I think if they had just even empathy in conversations, it doesn't mean that they have to say yes or that it has to go the agent's way.
I still have to say no, but I'm really sorry. This is going to maybe ruin your relationship.
Yeah. Hey, I can see how this affects you. Man, you guys work hard for this. Time is valuable, whatever. That human element in when carriers connect with that is so important. So like, I'll give you an example. On the captive side, back in the day with Allstate, you used to have underwriters that you could talk with. Yeah. And then Allstate came and said, look,
pool of underwriters.
We could do away with underwriting and go to black box underwriting and have just a peripheral, like when the fit hits the shan, it goes to these particular people, right? So then they would do that, and it took away the human element. So you went in, it either fits or it doesn't. There's no argument.
Yeah, no,
nothing. And then other companies follow suit with that. Well, black box underwriting is great. It's efficient until it isn't, right? Until you need to talk to someone and go, here's why I believe this fits, and here's the whole picture. So not monoline, but we've got a $10,000 household. Take a look at it with us. I do love that with some carriers. Other carriers don't do that well, and it's like, man, have some connectivity with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Like you save a lot of expense points by going to the black box, obviously, right? It's just like, hey, the black box said no, so the answer's no. I have a video where I'm like, there's this second floor on a humongous corporate building full of cubicles, but it's all empty because they went to the black box. Yeah. And so you save that whole expense by not having to hire all those people and all those cubicles and have that whole floor full of people. But at the same time, you lose that empathy. Your distribution channel then goes, I need somebody sitting in those seats so they can think outside of the box with
connection with the field.
Connection with the field, where the field goes, I feel like internally you guys understand where we're coming from. Yeah, that's tricky. Although you save those expense points too, which means we can offer a better rate, and that means we can play more competitively in the market and blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of like this catch-22. Like, what do you want as the agent? Do you want a better rate so you can be more competitive, so you can sell more policies?
Right.
And you want that because you're commission-based? Or do you not want a better rate and you want a body and a chair on the second floor of our humongous bank of individuals?
And most agents probably say yes, right? Deal the above, right?
Yes,
take it
exactly.
All. But I know on the the underwriters that the live underwriters, that second floor, right, so to speak, there's some that didn't do a great job, right? So they would say yes to everything, right? And they were buying what the agent was selling and didn't have an objective look. So then it has, there's loss ratio implications and all that, right? So it's like, I get that, but anytime that I reach out to a carrier or you're having a conversation with an underwriter or whatever, and you're able to personalize the conversation, it makes all the difference. You're like, man, having a relationship with someone, now it makes it so easy to hear no, but then also to go and say, I want to bring more yes opportunities. Yeah.
How about mentors or people in your personal board of directors? Who have been your insurance mentors over the years?
Early on, my dad, for sure. He taught me so much about insurance, and something that my dad did that I'm forever grateful for is when I was a producer for him, he used to take me to all the agent meetings. So back in the day, Allstate would do, and we were in Montana, right, is where I'm from. So we would go to Fairmont Hot Springs, or we'd go to these getaway, locations, offsite locations, and it's agents only. And my dad talked to the territory manager. I was like, hey, can I bring Tom? Oh yeah. So I'd go sit with these agents and glean from them and hear, well, here's how you handle this, and here's how you navigate. Right. Man, that was so impactful to me. So
because he could have easily left you at home and said, run the shop while I'm gone.
And another thing he did too is he would go and say, look, there's this contest that you're running as the territory or the district. Yeah. What if we double the production? Can Tom and his wife go? And they go, yeah, because you'll never do it. Yeah. Well, we did it, right? We would do it. Yeah. And I mean, it was so cool. I love that he included me in that. And I had a ton of exposure, like even to the point of when I became an agent and I had to go to agent school in Chicago. Here I'm in the home office and all these people knew my name.
We know you, Tom.
Oh, and it was like, wow. Right. Yeah. So, I've had that. I've had some awesome peer peer leaders. When I was a district manager, man, I had a peer that would mentor me and challenge me. And the thing about mentorship, sometimes we have to define what that looks like, because some folks want a sheet that says we're meeting on this day, here's the topic, and I've never had that mentorship. Right. And folks have wanted that from me, and I just don't do it. Mentorship to me is we're going to have a relationship. Number one, what's the basis for us even talking? Okay, here's the goal. And then be open to feedback, be open to questioning, be insanely curious, and then let's check in, let's touch base. I've had multiple people like that have poured in and invested in me. And so it then in turn makes me want to do that with others and go, how can I help? What's that look like? And then just be honest. Right. Part of the thing with mentorship too is it's not the let me stroke you or let me make you feel good.
Being able to call somebody and say, shoot me straight.
Buddy, speak to me, Goose, right? Talk to me, Goose. But then it's also like, I'm going to take it and be unoffendable, right? Because sometimes something rubs you the wrong way. Like, hey, let me chew on this a little bit, like a little piece of beef jerky, right? Let me chew on this. And then here, I'm going to get the goodness out of it. Yeah.
Cool. How do you manage your time?
I would love to have the perfect answer for that.
Yeah. I think a lot of agents, some agents do this really, really well. And some agents are like, I show up for a lot of hours a day. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But how do you actually manage that? And it's like, I mean, so
the technical side of it, right, is I try to calendar as much as possible. So, when we do callbacks or quotes or appointments, I put a lot on the calendar, and then I have a list every day of here's the things I need to accomplish and do that. And then it's managing off of that, keeping it loose. I don't have it to the minute, to the stuff like that, but it at least gives me an idea of here's what we got to do, and then here's what's coming up. But that can get away from you because the tyranny of the urgent, right? The phone calls, the text messages, the people walking in. And I mean, a lot of agents today say, I don't talk to customers or I don't meet face-to-face. We do it all. We talk, text, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, covered wagon, bring it. We're doing it. FedEx, right? However you get to us, we're interacting. And it's so incumbent then to go, here is my schedule. And oftentimes we have to tell people, I need to schedule that out. Or people, they've got myself at the bat phone. And so they're the only client. So they're texting and I go, hey, I've got my meetings booked up. I will get back to you at this time, and then I have to calendar it.
Is your son good at it?
He's awesome.
Is he?
He I swear, his mind. He has a beautiful mind. This dude. He'll sit there and be like, hey, Pops, don't forget this, or hey, don't. And like I've got it, but I love the reminder. I love and even the other night it was just the smallest thing. Like I had some. I went to Walmart over lunch, picked up some medicine, put it in the fridge. And he goes and puts a sticky note on the door. Hey, don't forget your meds. Now, I already had it in my hand, but I was like, man, this guy, he's on it. And I love that with our clients because we'll get these things that just like popcorn throughout the day, and he keeps track of it. So we're going throughout the day, and I've got my sheet, and I got my stuff, and he goes, hey, where are we at with X, and how are you? I'm like, oh, that's a good dude. Yeah. So part of it, too, is like in that, you have to have humility and go, look, I don't have it all together, or I'm not the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when you invite others in and go, staff my weakness, help me with this stuff, man, then it becomes a complete package.
Cool. What mistakes have you made in your career where you're going, I kind of screwed up on that thing?
Mistakes. See, there being so many of them, you have to think,
you're like, I screwed up.
Which ones do I want to tell?
I'm not saying like, I mean, it could be minute, like I screwed up on this policy one time or whatever, but I'm saying like more like career mistakes where you're like, I took a wrong turn.
So I
turned left when I went right.
One of the mistakes was I worked for my dad as a producer. Yeah. Then they came and said, hey, become your own agent.
How long did you do that with your dad?
So 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a mistake? I mean,
No, loved that. Yeah.
Okay.
That was great. Taught me the business.
Okay.
And then I became my own agent. Really loved that. Through that we bought our first house. Yeah. We, bought vehicles, or kids in private school. I mean, it was like, wow, it was incredible.
Yeah.
But then the corporate side started to come and just poke me a little bit. Yeah. And hey, you're a phenomenal agent. We'd like you to come into management with us. Yeah. And the thing for me is my ego got so big, and it then became, the thing was like, oh man, being a district manager, being a leader, that says something about me.
Yeah, right.
And so I focused so much on that and sold my agency and we made good money and they did this big move package. That's how we got to Kansas City from Montana. Mm-hmm. And that was like, it was more important, the title and what it said about me than my love for that actual role.
Yeah.
I got into it and there was just chaos in that role. And when I went to go work with agents, I mean, here I was just a young dude.
Sure.
And I'm working with these 40-year agents and they're disrespectful to me, could have cared less. Yeah. And these agents, there's a couple of them that were, they hated the carrier, so they would tape record everything. And I'm like, what did I get into?
Yeah, right.
And I think that was a mistake for me there. And then another one was like, we were in Kansas City and we went back to Montana for a Christmas visit. We're like, oh man, we're homesick, and we got to get back home. Yeah. And so we had a mentor, in the regional office was like, there's an agent retiring in Montana. We'll hand you the book. Yeah. If you're willing to go back, great family history, we love you. Sure. Would you go back? And I said, sure. So sold our house, moved back there, and it was a mistake. Yeah. It was a mistake because I took this agency and it was handed to me and I had this instant income and I wasn't working for it. I wasn't grinding. And so I got complacent in that and it was horrible. And I look back and I was like, oh, I wish we could have done differently there. And then here's the thing. Yeah. We were in that role, didn't have our infrastructure set up, didn't have like our marketing, all this stuff. We were just like, oh, this is going well. And people knew me. So I was selling. Sure. The agent had retired and moved to Alaska. From Montana, right? Who retires and goes to Alaska?
Right.
Well,
weirdos.
9 months later, right? Dude, it was like 9 months. Right, exactly. 9 months later, this agent goes, screw that. We like having, sun more than 3 hours a day. Right. So came back.
Right. Opened an agency.
Put this billboard up on 10th Avenue South, main thoroughfare, and said, so-and-so is back in town. Here's with this company. And I mean, I almost lost 100% of my book overnight.
Wow.
And it was devastating.
Wow.
It was like, whoa, what just happened?
Wow.
And that was menacing, man. That like was such a gut punch, and for a lot of reasons, right? Wow. So we went from there and moved back to Kansas City because there was like family dynamics with my dad and my sister because my dad got back in the business and was competing with my sister, and then here I am. So there's 3 Quintrells, and it was like, oh my God, it was crazy.
That was all up in Montana.
All in Montana.
Yeah, so we gotta get out of here.
And we went back and we're like, oh, here's what it was like when we left. We want to go back. That when we got back, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So those were probably a period where it was like, man, I missed it in that period. But again, part of it too, I learned a lot, right? We were able to recover from that. But that was
those
difficult.
Are interesting, like young man moments though, where you go, I mean, I had the same thing, management opportunities. I took them and they were probably the right steps at the moment, but they were maybe the missteps too. And you're like, this wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. And and you move your family across the country to get there, and you get there and you're like, why am I being recorded by agents?
Right.
Yeah.
It was just insane. Yeah. And, I look back on those times and it helps inform my decisions here. It helps to inform what we do now. And so I'm thankful for it, but at the time it was tough. Yeah. It was really tough. And one of the things that it taught me too is just like, I can look back now and go, my ego showed up, 3 weeks before I did.
Yeah, that's right.
I was just, oh man, I was the man. Right. But having humility and awareness and being able to look and say, man, we don't have to have that false bravado or that, machismo. Just be you and be cool with being you.
Yep.
And one of the superpowers that I think we have an opportunity to display today as agency owners and just as good humans is just being authentic.
Yeah.
And when you're vulnerable with your client, when you're authentic with folks, and again, I don't mean laying out your whole story, but like just connecting with them as people.
Yeah.
People go, man, I love that about you. I trust you.
Right.
And while I don't know this carrier or I don't know that, I feel like I know you.
Right.
And
that's right.
That, when we can do that with people, we're in the people business.
That's right.
Right. And it's like people, and you get used to in sales, they're like, oh, we're in the people business. But no, when, what's
when
his
a house
name?
burns down and somebody's crying, you're in the people business.
When we had literally two. One, a house just burned down, was it 4 weeks ago? And they were blowing up our cells. Yeah. And what was crazy is we were supposed to write this homeowners, and we didn't know, is it monthly? Is it, you paying full? And the customer never got back to us. Yeah. Well, their house burnt down, and we didn't write it. It was still with Progressive, thank God. Progressive, paid it in full, whatever,
sure.
Because in Missouri, it's whatever the deck page says, they write the check and a loss. But that was like, oh my God, that was a crazy moment. Then we had a tornado hit, and families taking shelter, and they lost everything, calling us, right? And we get to go and be in those moments, and out of that then, and genuinely, like show up, and out of those moments, we get so many referrals and stuff. But it on that YouTube video, what Christos, him too. Yeah. What are you selling?
Yeah, that's right.
What are you selling?
That's right.
And it's such a great question because if we can't answer that, or more importantly, if we don't create that experience, man, we're just transactional.
Yep.
Just go to Walmart, just scan it.
You're not selling a policy. You're selling protection. You're selling comfort. You're selling peace of mind. You're selling so many other things other than that 20-page piece of paper you gave that guy in 1994.
That nobody reads or cares about.
Yeah.
What they want to know is when everything goes off the rails for me, who do I call?
Right.
And I tell people, I go, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? No.
Yeah.
Call me.
Yeah.
You call my son. You call our office.
Yeah.
And we stand behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Insurance gives you this great opportunity to like, a lot of people get into insurance, like really have these servant hearts, where it's like, we can't obviously rebate a policy or a client, but the house gets blown down by a tornado and you're out there and you're helping, taking the tree down, or you're helping, and not that you do that for all your clients, but a lot of insurance agents have these just beautiful hearts that they just want to help serve. And it's like, you're suffering. Insurance is going to help you with the suffering because I took care of you from an insurance perspective. Yeah. But from a human perspective, I also just want to show up and help.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's some snacks, right? Here's some blankets. Here's some, this, when the tornado hit, the kids' jungle gym was tossed way down the property. It was like a half a mile down. Right. We took the truck out there, my son and I, just at work, look just like this.
That's my point.
We go, let's load this thing up and drag this back. Their trampoline was a mile away, went and hauled it back. Yep. Like, bless those kids. Get some normalcy. And, I mean, they were so blown away by it. But I'm like, we get an opportunity to impact people's lives. Why not?
Which is amazing.
Why not do it?
It's such a great career.
Well, and it goes so far beyond just the typical, what you see on TV insurance guy, or, you look like an insurance salesman. It's like, no, insurance is people, 100%, and connecting and protecting. And by the way, there are some that don't do it well, right? There's agents out there that don't explain coverages, and it's like, we get to be the light in the darkness on that and go, we're going to shine it and show you what it should be like.
Couple last questions.
Couple last questions.
Favorite carrier so far?
Favorite carrier, man. So,
and I kind of mean holistically. You call their service center and you're going, man, great, thank you for not making me sit on hold. And they're just the carrier that makes it great.
We've got two of them really that I think go well for us. One, Travelers, is legit. They do well and take care of us well. Yeah. Easy to interact with, all that jazz. And then we've really fallen in love with National General. Oh, okay. Man, National General, those cats, like, what I love about them is we have an underwriter specifically with policy stuff that we can email, we can call, and man, our underwriter, Cherie is her name. Yeah. She is dynamite, man. Yeah. She will get to laughing and having a good time and talking about stuff. Yeah. And you're like, thank you, right? Like that doesn't, again, mean that you owe me a yes and everything, but I love the personal, like, hey, we can connect factor. Yeah, yeah. So those two have been really good.
Cool. Yeah. We'll say last question so we can get you on your flight home, but what would you tell younger Tom? If you could tell 18-year-old Tom, hey, I need to tell you something, what would you tell younger Tom?
Man, what a question. For me, is part of it would be like dream big like I did, and I saw, and even dream bigger because, again, I was like, I can make 50,000.
Yeah, dream bigger.
But enjoy the journey, man. Be present, because some of it early on and along the way, it's looking for that next thing or how to get, that next level or this.
If I hustle harder, I'll get to.
And then it was sometimes too like, oh man, I want to make that trip, or I want to, and it was about the destination and not the journey, not the process. And so I would say to that dude, like, man, enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, because there's milestones. There is no destination. Yeah. We're going to check boxes. We're going to hit the gates as we go, but there's so much more that you don't understand, but just be willing, right? Let it ride and enjoy it.
That's really good advice.
I think about that so much, and I tell my son that, so I find myself sharing that with him because he gets frustrated. He gets, like, and I'm like, oh, buddy, we're the long game, right? Patience and. Yeah.
I think it's I think somebody told me that at some point when I was young, but it's hard. Like I think you said your dad referred to you as a young lion. It's hard to tell a young lion, hey, chill out and enjoy the game. It's like, there is no chill out. I need to do more so I can accomplish more and get more done. And it's like, yeah, but enjoy the process. It's like, there is no enjoying the process. It's like, well, you could. And it's like,
well, and sometimes you don't see the forest for the trees.
Sure.
Right. You just don't know what you don't know. And that was the thing that, like, all these years, it doesn't even feel like I've been 29 years in the business. I mean, it feels like just yesterday. And I look and I go, man, I want to take what the things I've learned, a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures, and some successes, and go, man, let's rock out this next 29 years or whatever it's going to be. Yeah. And I want to, more importantly, not, because it used to be all about me.
Yeah, now it's for your son. It's for the next generation.
Man, I want to see my son. I want to see my grandkids in this. And I go, I want Quintrell Insurance Group to be around forever.
Right.
An enterprise. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to set the foundations, and we're going to do it right and then pass it on. Right. So ultimately, that's what I'm hoping for.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you very much for being willing to do this.
Bruh.
And I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan.
Listen, I'm a huge fan of PGI, of yours, and the voicemail, right? So when I was a captive agent, I would call my sales manager, and I'd be like, man, we got this sale, we did this thing. And so here I had just this awesome, sale, and I'm like, who do I call, right? I'm
I have to tell somebody.
And I'm like, I'm calling Sean.
This is my process of ringing the gong.
It's like, this is my dude, right? So. Yeah, you're my guy.
I loved it, and I appreciate it, and I actually come out to your neck of the woods every once in a while. So next time I'm out there, we'll have to hook up and spend some time together.
That'd be awesome.
Meet the sun and see the
you're
office
gonna love
and do
it.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Okay.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks. Everybody. Bye-bye. Premier Group Insurance is providing this podcast for informational uses only. This podcast should not be relied on as legal or medical advice. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Premier Group Insurance. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply any endorsement to them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Premier Group Insurance employees, i.e. Sean Michael Walker, are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the view of Premier Group Insurance. Copyright 2022. Premier Group Insurance, Inc. All rights reserved.